Ah, space. The final frontier. For millennia, mankind has felt the urge to understand and explore the vastness of our universe, unravel its mysteries, measure the unmeasurable. Whoa, getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit. Who would think of deep space exploration when we can't even say for sure how many planets there are in our tiny, negligible solar system? Our first count came to 9 planets, then we kicked out Pluto.
Hey, you there! Get out of here!
No, not you, you're a good boy.
I mean, you dwarf planet.
And with membership reduced to 8, and another few rotations around the Sun, the weird talk about yet another 9th planet started. Recent astronomical research has led to the theory that there might be actually, after all, a 9th planet in our solar system. Allegedly it's very big, it's very dark, circulates somewhere far away from the Sun around here, and is the reason why certain stellar objects in this area behave the way that they do. Now, as astronomers have found a really new groovy topic to talk about, also the board gaming world has found a really new cool theme for the board games, which has been most popularly introduced so far by the title The Crew, which we do not want to talk about today. Alright, okay. So just for context a little bit. So The Crew came out and did something mechanically very intriguing. It turned trick-taking card games into a cooperative affair, which is great. Thematically, it was taking you onto this journey to this 9th planet. However, the thematic ties were rather loose. It fell flat a little bit on that department, which is a shame. But then, entry, the search for Planet X. The Search for Planet X is a deduction game for up to 4 players, and it really distills the concept of deduction games down to its core. If you're not familiar with this genre of games, what deduction games do is they basically give you a puzzle or riddle to solve. All players try to solve it, and usually, whichever player manages to solve it first wins. In the Search for Planet X, you are an astronomer. Your task? Find Planet X. And when you're already at it, also its many other celestial bodies. Your most crucial piece of equipment, always here tucked secretly away behind your player screen, is this barely intimidating piece of paper with this cosmic pizza here, known to the hobby astronomer as the sectors of the sky. Each slice shows the different celestial bodies that can appear there, such as asteroids, gas clouds, dwarf planets, and comets. Also, you see how many of each type of objects you're looking for, and you see a summary of the logic rules that apply in each game, such as gas clouds can only exist adjacent to at least one empty sector, or dwarf planets can never be next to Planet X. Lastly, there are spaces to record the actions you will take over the course of the game. Let's talk about those actions in a moment, but first I must bring up one other crucial component that polarizes the board gaming world. The app. Some people see in apps an invasion of the purely analog realm of board games, but you gotta give it to them. When it comes to deduction games, they do an excellent job at allowing every player at the table to be equally engaged at the task of solving the puzzle, solving the riddle. In the Search for Planet X, what the app does is it randomly generates an arrangement of celestial bodies across these sectors for each game session. Each sector will either contain an asteroid, or a comet, or a gas cloud, or a dwarf planet, or it will be a seemingly empty sector. However, one of those empty sectors actually contains the mysterious Planet X. So, the app does all that for you, and you're good to go with your deduction delight. Okay, now let's have a look at the game board. You see, it shows the same 12 sectors that you already know from your personal research sheet. Also, you notice here such a disk that can rotate. It will only make half of the sectors visible, meaning only on half of them you can see the sector numbers. Those visible ones are considered the visible sky, so the sectors in which you can conduct your observations, that is, take your actions. On the outer edge you also see a turn order track with your observatory pawns. To get going, you just check who is on the last position of this track. So let's say you're blue. Congrats, you're back here, it's your turn. What you're going to do then is you take an action. That action will give you some information to solve the puzzle. Also, each action has a time cost, so once you're done with it, you just move your pawn according to the time cost unit of your action that you took along the track here. Once you're done with that, you then finish by rotating this disc here in the middle to the next player in last position. So you shift the visible sky, and then it's that next player's turn at the end of the track. And that's how the game flows. So let's talk about your actions, about what you actually do in the Search for Planet X. And it's actually really simple. There's three options of which to choose from. You can either survey, you can target, or you can research. In a survey action, what you do is you basically pick one of the celestial bodies that you want to look for, so asteroids, gas clouds, comets, whatever, and you also say in which of the sectors of the visible sky you want to look for them. The app will then tell you how many of these objects are in your chosen sectors, but it won't tell you exactly where they are. The more sectors you choose, the less time cost for this action, which is good, but also the less clear will be your results, because you just covered more ground and don't know where exactly all these objects will be in the end. As after any such action, you then in the end record your results on your sheet. And about that, let me also mention that the rulebook has some absolutely fantastic suggestions for a shorthand how to keep track of your results. So that was a survey action, but if survey sounds too wishy-washy for your scientific explorations, maybe try to target. The target action is very powerful. For that reason, it costs the most time units, and also you can only do it twice in the game, each time spending one of your 2 target tokens. When you target, you relentlessly put your telescope lenses onto a sector until you know what's there. You just tell the app which sector you want to target, and the app will reveal to you what this sector holds. Bingo. Unless you find an empty sector, in which case you're not entirely sure now, is it the one that hides Planet X, or is it truly empty? And if you're getting tired of staring through gigantic telescope lenses all the time, maybe take it slow. Take a research action. Get yourself a cup of tea, good science book, science magazine, hit the library, do some research. Research allows you to pick one of 6 research topics specific to your randomly generated scenario. You pick one of the topics, and the app will reveal some information on that specific topic. This action allows you to discover rules specific to your scenario on how certain objects relate to one another. For example, a topic might say G plus C, and upon researching that, you might learn that there's at least one gas cloud adjacent to a comet, for example. And so if you know something about gas clouds and comets already, this information might be really helpful. Am I right? Huh? Shh. Sorry. So, what does it all give you? Well, over the course of the game, you will gather more and more data to analyze, and from that can create more and more hard facts for yourself. Those will allow you to create new hypotheses on which sectors may hold what kind of objects. We have your survey results, your specific research, the general rules that apply to each game, and that will all allow you bit by bit to puzzle it all together. New discoveries will allow you to take new directions in your research, survey and target actions, and that way you can just get closer and closer to finding Planet X. And once you think you've done that, well then, you can take a last action that we actually haven't discussed yet, and that is to locate Planet X. To do so, you need to know where Planet X is, but also what is in its 2 neighboring sectors. If you're wrong, you just waste a lot of time units. But if you're right, congratulations on your scientific breakthrough. Each other player gets to take one last action, and then you tally your points.
Say what? Points?
Yes, points. One of the really nice things about the Search for Planet X is that it's not one of those the winner takes it all deduction games. If you find Planet X first, you're likely to win, but by no means your victory is certain. And that brings us to one of the 2 things that, in my opinion, make the Search for Planet X not just a really good deduction game, but possibly one of the best on the market. So let's talk about the great level of player interaction. Because what we haven't talked about yet are the publications. Every time the center board passes one of those symbols here, that is basically every quarter rotation, you can make a publication. That is, you can share your discoveries with your fellow astronomers. For each object that you can find in the game, you have such a corresponding token behind your player screen. When it's time for publications, each player can pick one of those tokens and place them on the outer space of a sector, thus committing to what they believe they have found in that very sector. Now, with every following publication symbol that is reached, those tokens slide further to the center. And once they reach the center, they get peer-reviewed. This means you reveal all the tokens in the center spaces and check with the app who has been correct. If you're correct, you gain those precious points that might win you the game. And even better, if you were the first in the sector to figure out what's there, you even get some bonus points. However, that of course all comes at the cost that all other players instantly know what you've been working so hard for to discover. This mechanic is just brilliant. It gives each player a chance to win, even if you're not doing too well with actually finding Planet X. It makes every discovery worthwhile and just creates this really nice extra layer of player interaction. Usually between your turns you're really thinking very hard of what you've just learned, what it means to your puzzle, what you want to learn next. But with this peer review mechanic, it also gets really interesting to pay close attention to what the other players are doing. Are they surveying and researching for comments? Should you then maybe rather focus on asteroids and try to be the first in that field when it comes to the publications? Or do you maybe want to race them for findings in the research field of comets? And also, what does it mean for the sectors when they put down the publication token there? If they've been researching a lot about, let's say, asteroids, could the token then be an asteroid? Your player sheet actually even encourages you to note down exactly what your fellow astronomers are researching. And that brings me to the second point, which makes me think this game is just absolutely great. And that is the theme. Deduction games basically recreate the scientific method. You're constantly creating hypotheses of what could and could not be, then determine the best possible experiments to figure out what actually is true or not true. Collect the data in there, analyze that, and eventually communicate it in some way or another. That's what scientists do. And that's what you do when you play The Search for Planet X, a game about astroscientists. Constantly just getting a little bit closer to the truth with every iteration of this scientific method. It's just thematically so great. And these publication and peer review mechanics, they add so much to this thematic flavor. I mean, think about the real scientific community. This is all just scientists who benefit from each other's research just as much as they are constantly in competition with one another over the next best funding. And this game captures this flavor so nicely. Everybody's racing to be first with the discoveries, raking in those precious points. And just because being second with a discovery is just not that prestigious. So, are you sure what's in that sector? Maybe not entirely, but this other player has been researching in a similar direction for the last 2 rounds. So maybe just put out this publication on a hunch, have it slide all the way in, and once it gets peer reviewed, hope it won't blow up in your face. And also this constant influx of helpful information from other players' discoveries, and even from their misses. So no one thought it's an asteroid, but it isn't an asteroid. And even that can be really helpful information for your next big breakthrough. So, there you have it, The Search for Planet X. A game I would suggest to any player who's interested in a puzzly experience. Its basic rules are really simple and accessible, but the dynamic that unfolds when everything is set in motion just gives you this really deep deduction adventure with a fantastic sense of theme and a really great level of player interaction. And I didn't even get to talk about such other facts, like for example, the game board also offers you the second side with 18 sectors, giving you some sort of master challenge if you're bored with the regular 12 sides, or about the fact that the app allows to alleviate different player experience levels by just giving less experienced players more starting information. It's just a phenomenal package, gorgeously produced, my highest recommendation for The Search for Planet X. Hey there! So, you've just been watching my pilot version of video reviews for board games. This is the first time I've been doing such a thing in my makeshift studio that I've still got some tidying up to do in. If you enjoyed this content, if you think there was something nice to watch, then just please leave me a comment, leave me a like. Also, constructive feedback is welcome, just for me to gauge if I should continue this little endeavor of mine, wherever I might find time for it. And anyway, thanks again for watching, and hopefully see you sometime in another video. Bye!